Hello, welcome to Women in Clean Tech and Sustainability's virtual happy hour on Pathways to Greener Entertainment. This is a Los Angeles chapter event, though we are meeting virtually, and our topic is very locally based in the hub of entertainment, Los Angeles. We're here to talk about how to bring sustainability to that industry, and we have two amazing experts. I want to just quickly at the beginning here thank our two event organizers of this event, Alyssa Harley and Melise Renaud. Both of these women were essential to planning this event as volunteers and are very exemplar of bringing sustainability and WCS to things that they're passionate about. So if you are interested at all at planning an event, definitely please do reach out to either them or myself throughout this event, and there's many opportunities. I also want to specifically thank our marketing lead, Katie Gardner, our committee chair, Camille Terry, and Alyssa here is also doing some day of event volunteering. So check out this QR code. You can be a volunteer for our committee, you can be a volunteer for any sort of committee, whether you like marketing, membership, anything, day of event volunteering, check it out. Today's event is an hour and a half long, so thank you so much for coming and sharing your time with us. We value it so much. If you're on the East Coast, I hope you are deeply relaxing in your evening. If you're on the West Coast, congratulations on finishing your day's work. I hope that this is the beginning of a relaxing evening and an opportunity to learn new things. So we'll start with just my intro here and then pass the torch to what you're really here for, which is the speakers. And my co-moderator, who I'll introduce in a bit, will also help me through guiding that along. Then we'll have two breakout sessions where you can network with people in this group, which I think is one of the key functions of these WCS events, is you get to meet all these amazing women, men, however anyone identifies, and take that networking to your own industry, your own life, maybe even your personal life. So don't take it for granted. Who is WCS? If you are new to WCS, welcome. Thank you for finding us and coming along. We're actually celebrating our 10-year anniversary, which is wild. We have a summit in November to specifically celebrate this. But WCS is a nonprofit based in San Francisco, but we are now in 13 countries. And we host virtual events, and we used to host in-person events. We will again someday, we're hoping. But we also have a mentorship program and some more kind of TED Talk style events as well throughout the year. So check us out. In particular, just next week, we have a panel on ESG impact reporting, which is a very hot topic right now. And then our big summit that I mentioned prior is November 10th. And we have a panel in later November on demystifying mentorship, which I'm really excited for because I think we all have kind of a complex where we always think we're mentees, but actually you all are experts in so many things and you can be a mentor to someone as well. So probably not your first Zoom event. Gotta say these things just to remind you all, please do respect the speakers and the other participants and the volunteers by muting appropriately. And I really do recommend sharing your video. I see a lot of you already are, but share your video, put your name there, put your link in the chat. The more you put into this, the more you'll get out of it, I guarantee. So just be respectful and give each other the benefit of the doubt. They're coming with our best expectations and intentions. If you paid for this event, thank you. But if you want to get all virtual events for free, we have a virtual membership opportunity where you have many different benefits. And you can actually get this event reimbursed if you go to this QR code and sign up to be a virtual member tonight. So similarly, if you have any interest in learning more details on that, definitely reach out to me or anyone who says volunteer or board member in their name here. We can tell you more about it. So you've probably been like, who's this weird talking head? Why hasn't she introduced herself? Honestly, because I forgot, but now here is me. My name's Caroline Trowbridge. I am the chair of the global virtual events here at WCS. In my day job, I work in project finance at Leeward Renewable Energy, doing utility scale solar, wind, and storage. And I have a co-host who is an amazing woman, Melise. I introduced her slightly prior, but she is coming here with a lot of expertise. She's from living in the LA area, but originally from France. And I will pass the torch to you, Melise, to introduce yourself further and also our speakers.
Hi, can you all hear me? Yes.
Yeah.
Sure, perfect. Thank you so much, Karen, for this amazing introduction. I am currently working at the Consulate General of France in Los Angeles, trying to foster collaborations between French and American scientists, and I'm passionate about the environment and any topics related to the environment and sustainability and clean tech. And this is why I joined WCS. So thank you for being here with us tonight. This event is part of the WCS LA chapter event program, and I would like to thank the team that made this event possible, as well as the other WCS committees. And why are we talking about entertainment today? So as you know, Los Angeles is known as the creative capital of the world and is home of Hollywood, and this is a global center for media and entertainment. And we thought it would be amazing to welcome leader in the field to tell us more about sustainability in the field. We have some powerful women that are moving the industry, the media and entertainment industry, in this direction. And I'm really happy to welcome Audrey Vinant-Tang and Kris Barberg today. Thank you for being here with us. Our first speaker, Audrey Vinant-Tang, has paved her own way in the industry and is currently the senior manager for energy and sustainability at NBCUniversal. She's going to share with us in the next 15 minutes her bold career path, and she will discuss her current missions as she oversees sustainability strategy and energy management for the studio operations, looking to pilot clean technology and decarbonizing facilities. So thank you so much, Audrey, for being here. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Melise. So hi, everyone. Nice to see so many new faces. Audrey Vinant-Tang. So yeah, I just started recently at NBCUniversal, but I've been in the film and entertainment industry for a while, always working in sustainability. I came to NBCUniversal about 2 months after they announced a carbon neutral by 2035 goal. So everything that I do is really aimed at achieving that goal for the NBCU portfolio, especially on the studio operations side. So that's everything from clean tech solutions for our studios. So kind of it's in one sense it's a facility like any other, but there are some special kind of niche things about the film and entertainment industry. We have a rotating list of productions that spend a few months with us, and then spend part of their time on location filming all over town. And so, they need a lot of flexible mobile solutions to their power needs. So how do we meet those needs and meet their, usually very strict deadlines, but also make sure that they're, using clean energy, renewable energy, and decarbonizing as much as we can, acknowledging that some areas are, the technology is not there yet. So that's where I am today. I guess just to kind of take it back, I started as an environmental engineer. But I minored in film and television, mostly just out of a sheer love of movies as a growing up. I worked on productions, mostly student films. I worked for my student TV station, mostly as a way to make money. But I never thought I would combine environmental work with filmmaking ever. And what do you know? I worked as an air quality engineer for a few years, mostly doing environmental impact reports, greenhouse gas calculations, life cycle analyses. But the GHG reporting is really what kind of brought me into the world of corporate sustainability. So I ended up working at CBS Television, starting up their sustainability program. And so that's where that production experience really came into play. And, I started the program, we called it Eye on the Environment, because of the CBS Eye. I got to, design the logo and all kinds of fun stuff. And so it was very interesting to see a program get built from scratch. And so as we kind of went through, the pillars of the program ended up being energy, of course, and then sourcing, productions, and employee engagement. So did a lot around, Earth Day and getting our employees engaged, but then how can we, carry things through the year? Through that, worked on a lot of interesting projects from, on-site solar installations, worked on a lot of productions, which was a lot of fun. Got to work with the CBS Sports Group, which was a really interesting process because they are almost entirely remote. So even if they're filming at an NFL stadium or at a golf course, they can't actually connect to the grid. So it's almost like they're working on an island. And so they bring in giant diesel tank, about cargo shipping container size, to power the entire base camp and transmission, and that relays to all the different camera towers at 18 golf holes. So it's quite a big operation. And so we piloted. I convinced them to pilot a solar powered battery, kind of generator type, essentially a mobile battery pack. And we ended up piloting it while they were on air, which is the most difficult thing to convince anyone to do. But we kind of piloted on the days leading up to the tournament, and then we were able to kind of show them that it was working. And of course, there was a diesel generator next to it for redundancy. But it worked really well. And so certain scenarios work better than others. Certain panel arrangements work better than others. I was out there moving them around because even in Phoenix, where you think you'd have really great sun, the people, like fans, would stand right in front of the solar panel, and so then you'd lose power, or the shade would move and the camera tower itself would then shade the panel. So it's very interesting to learn the practicalities of testing out these existing technologies. But there's also a lot of work being done to create battery type solutions, for example, specifically for film and television productions, because it is kind of a unique environment. So, it needs to be mobile, it needs to be something portable. Like the battery packs we tested were so heavy. It took 4 people to lift them off of a golf cart. And those are, again, logistical things that you learn, okay, seems great in practice. In reality, it's really hard. So always love to pilot new technology, especially clean technology, wherever we can. I also got to go to the Super Bowl at the beginning of this year, actually. And so there we did a lot of great things around waste management and actually set donations. So donating a lot of the, set decoration pieces. So, everything from, they had a fake turf for the announcers to speak on top of. And we ended up donating that to the Tampa Bay Zoo, for example. So little things like that, just making sure that materials that we're bringing get connected back to local nonprofits. And I know Kris is going to talk a lot more about that aspect of production sustainability. And so, so it was very interesting. And then at CBS, 2-ish years ago, there was a merger with Viacom. So that was very interesting from a kind of sustainability programmatic approach of how do you merge two different companies and merge their sustainability vision, their ethos. I mean, even just culturally at a larger standpoint, how do you merge two large companies? But it was very interesting experience for me. And so we actually ended up launching an ESG focused program, which I know is, what everyone's doing nowadays. And so then we kind of retooled a lot of the Eye on the Environment work to be towards our 3 pillars based on a new materiality assessment that we did as a combined company. And so that was sustainable productions and operations was one of the pillars that I spent most of my time on. And then we also had workforce and culture, and then on-screen content and social impact, because there's a lot we can do as a large company for our physical operations, but at the end of the day, a lot of people, the biggest impact entertainment has is on hearts and minds. And so the more we can do to communicate sustainability, whether that's through our news programming to make sure we're being accurate about the role of climate change, to just having characters talk about it because it's a reality that we're all living with. So that was a lot of really interesting work happening in that space. And so then at Viacom, the other thing that happened with the merger was that I had these big goals around renewable energy, and then the size of the company doubled while I was trying to achieve renewable energy percentages. So I ended up at the merged company, we ended up at 10% renewable energy in 2019, and that then doubled again the next year. So it was at about 21% when I left. And so that represents about 80,000 megawatt hours. So really proud of how much renewable energy we were able to contract as a company. And I think one of the more impactful things we could do from an emissions perspective. And so kind of more broadly, when I moved over to NBCUniversal, same industry, different company, different operations. But a lot of the companies have, we have shared problems, and so we have shared solutions. And we actually work in the pre-competitive space through the Sustainable Production Alliance, or SPA. And we manage a website called greenproductionguide.com. So if you have any interest in the intersection of entertainment and sustainability, I highly recommend going to that website. And I actually am the co-chair of our Clean Energy Committee. And so we actually have posted a few interesting resources around those mobile battery packs I was talking about. Also around grid ties, like how, if you're on location somewhere, can you work with your local utility to get a power drop? It's a little bit of a hassle, so to speak, but can be worthwhile, especially if you keep returning to the same location. It's something that we're also trying to work with cities that we film in. So, for example, in Vancouver, there's a pretty elaborate mapped out system where the city has dropped power stations, or kiosks, they call them, at major filming locations. And that's great because the BC grid is about 99% hydro, so a pretty clean grid compared to running diesel. And so, yeah, greenproductionguide.com is a great place to see all those great resources. And with that, I will kick it back over to Maëlys.
Thank you so much, Audrey. It's a pretty exciting position, I believe. And could you tell us, maybe we have 1 more minute, tell us about how the industry is moving, maybe on a broader scale. Like, do you feel the momentum in terms of sustainability and clean tech and clean energy?
Yeah, definitely. It's been very interesting, I think, being in this space for the last 7 or so years. it's definitely expanded. I mean, I would say every major studio has someone in charge of sustainability, at least one person, hopefully more. And I would also say that, you know, building the momentum from more of a, I guess, an industry perspective is definitely there. You know, most of the unions and guilds now have green committees or sustainability committees. You know, even part of there was a recent strike from IATSE, which is one of the largest unions in Hollywood and even kind of the theater business. And a lot of what they were asking for was actually around sustainability. It was around, you know, working hours, and there were even some things around like air quality and things like that, which was very interesting. So there's a lot of kind of momentum building there. And then I would say from a supplier perspective, there, you know, in Vancouver, for example, when so a few years back, diesel generators were banned in public parks and a lot of filming locations. And so as a result, a giant kind of, I mean, giant, relatively speaking, a battery electric generator for the film industry kind of boomed. So there was, you know, one was developed, and then next thing you know, there were 3 companies that were working on this, and then next thing you knew, they were making larger and larger units, more flexible units, more really kind of meeting the different needs of different sizes of productions. And so I think that kind of snowball effect from kind of, I guess, a research and development perspective, but also just a product commercialization perspective has definitely, you can definitely sense that energy.
Merci beaucoup. Thank you.
De rien.
I will go to our next and second speaker, the executive director and partner at EcoSet that I had the chance to meet a couple of weeks ago in her warehouse. Kris Barberg, you play an important role to build sustainable production programs that mitigate the physical waste impacts behind the scenes and to incorporate circular economy principles. Kris, the floor is yours.
Okay. Thank you very much for the invitation to be here. And Audrey, I just love hearing you speak. It's so encouraging what you're working on. And also from the carbon emissions perspective, it's higher level than what we do, but it's exciting to hear kind of the little part where we insert into a sustainable production program. I'm going to show instead of tell. I would like to do a little walk around our warehouse, which is a donation center called the Materials Oasis. And Audrey's visited and Maylise has visited, and we're open to the public by appointment. And the way we operate is we intake used production materials for a disposal fee. We call it a diversion fee, and we make them available as a free resources to the community. So it's equal opportunity reuse. A lot of filmmakers, theaters, production designers, and even schools, nonprofits, individual artists, reuse enthusiasts will come and find something that they need for whatever project they're working on. EcoSet does more than just materials diversion. It's mostly what I'll talk about tonight, but we also have been around since 2009, creating sustainable production programs in the advertising space. So we work directly with brands to incorporate zero waste standards on their productions. We're the direct service provider. So we, as part of our work on set, we're another department, just like camera and grip and lighting. We're the sustainability department. So we handle the recycling, the composting, food donations, and then the reuse facet of it, of salvaging materials and making a plan from the very beginning so that materials aren't sent to landfills here in California. But I'm going to unplug and hopefully my internet will last through the building. Let's just see. If not, I'll come back. I'll tether back here. Okay, so we're based in Los Angeles. It's our primary market, but we've worked all over the United States. The next market we work most commonly is New York and also Minneapolis, where I'm from. And I've been with EcoSet since 2009, started out as a freelancer and became a full-time staff member and then became a partner in 2012. So we're still open a little bit. We've got a lot of uses for our building, but this is basically our donation center. I'll turn the camera around for a tour. We have space rentals, workshops, makerspace, and that's part of how we fund our business model as well as the services we provide. But everything here is basically was slated for disposal, standard disposal, but we're able to take it in and then recirculate it as a reusable material. So everything from soft goods and textiles and clothing to furniture, outdated fixtures and appliances still can have another life cycle. We took in a giant mixer from a cooking competition show. And so then we go over to this area. It's pretty sparse right now, but it's usually full of home goods and props and small items that anybody can use, not just film productions. And then we move over toward some of our larger items here. Sheet goods and scrap materials. A lot of times they'll just get sent to construction and demolition recycling, but even half sheet or offcuts of wood will have a second life for artists and creative projects. Set walls, these just came in today. Let's see, we salvage paint if there's enough in the can. This set just came in today from a production. And then over here is all the larger scenic pieces. Custom scenery, set walls. Today we just worked with an art museum. We work with 3 art museums in Los Angeles and take in crates for their artwork. So that was one of our loads today. Here's the crates that came in. And those get used for practical purposes like room dividers and maker spaces. So basically everything has an opportunity. If people see something that, if they see something that they like, they can put a hold tag on it and come back when they have the appropriate trucking and labor. For example, this piece right here takes 4 people to lift it and a forklift. So you have to have a trailer and a driver who knows how to drive with a big load and the labor that can lift it. We take in rolled goods, all kinds of scrap materials that are generally just standard disposal. So we work with television productions, feature films, advertising production, a lot of commercials. We just did holiday campaign for Target. It's our 12th year working with Target as one of their strategic partners. And then kind of reaching the end of the walk around, but even things like foam, packing materials. We have tons of packing materials. If we make those available as a reusable resource, it's a huge volume of disposal we don't have to send to landfill. And then another part of our operations is makerspace. So everything behind a screen is rental, space rental. So a lot of people can take used materials and turn them, rehab them and turn them into another creative project right here on site. And so what we found as part of our business model is if we have makerspace, it's part of an existing production budget that people are already planning to pay for. And it's a part of a way of supporting our operations. And then as Audrey was mentioning too, I'm gonna go back into our office. We make everything available that's got a fair market value. So home goods, clothing, wardrobe, anything such as, brand new purchased items, those will go directly to nonprofits. So actually, I should back up. We have what I call our faux burritum, and this is all fake plants that we've salvaged, and we actually rent those out as affordable fake greens. So that's kind of the extent of the tour. Am I still okay on time?
Yes, you have 5 minutes.
Okay. So I'll catch my breath. But so one of the ways we work with film and television, for example, we work a lot with Netflix, and we have done 45 projects with them, but it's not necessarily active productions that are still working. It's storage clearouts. So after a series has been canceled or a pilot isn't picked up, there's still 4,000 square feet of storage of everything under the sun, from furniture to props. Depending on the nature of the production, it could be post-apocalyptic, dirty and distressed props that are really grimy and nobody wants them. But we can still do a diversion scope for the production. So we'll go in with box trucks and drivers and labor, and we'll take every single load out of the storage unit, bring it back to our warehouse, and then we disperse it back into the community, whether it's home goods or props or just scrap materials, whatever it may be, and very little is actually disposed of. And then another way we integrate with production is while they're striking. So often we'll tie into the sustainability coordinator that's working on the show, and they're working on the overall strategy, not just materials and waste. But if they can loop us in early enough while a construction team is dismantling, where they're able to avoid a level of demolition. So a lot of times a set will get built for a show and then just straight demolition into 40-yard dumpsters. So we were able to incorporate ourselves into a Netflix production earlier this year and keep 79,000 pounds out of the landfill just because of advanced planning. And so what we did to do that was we had a list of construction materials that were going to be thrown away. And these include things like I-beams, OSB. This is when lumber was so expensive. Everybody was scrambling budget-wise for lumber and construction materials this summer. So instead of just straight dumpster disposal, we landed our trailer right next to the dumpster. And so the dismantling team, the construction team, was able to decide, is it demo or disposal, demo or donation? And so as soon as they filled our trailer, the teamster or the driver would bring it to our warehouse. We'd unload it, send it back for another load. And we did this probably 8 or 9 times. And then we were also given a list of things to keep out of the landfill and donate straight from the studio, which is in Long Beach. And so that included giant hedges, like faux boxwood hedges. And those were like 8 to 10 to 13 feet tall. And we donated, overall, it was 79,000 pounds of materials we kept out of the landfill, the hedges and the construction materials. So those are 2 different ways we can integrate with a television show or a feature that's either striking or already completed. And then when we work in advertising, we're there from the beginning. So helping during pre-production, developing the recycling and composting strategy, and then actually implementing and executing the zero waste actions on set. So that's kind of the overview of what we do.
And the Oscar goes to, thank you for the comment in the chat. Thank you so much, Kris, for this presentation and the tour in the warehouse. I think it's really amazing because it gives us like a concrete idea of what you're doing. And we have a couple of questions in the chat. 2 are pretty short. The first one, Audrey asked, is your office decor made of reclaimed wood?
Oh. Could you say that again? I'm going to try to read that. Okay. Well,
is your office decor made of reclaimed wood?
Yeah, everything. It's actually fake wood. It's all faux. But when we moved into a really grimy warehouse that hadn't been updated in 30 years. And so we took everything, creative materials from the film industry and renovated and rehabbed into our specifications.
Cool. Second quick question from Sarah. Do the sets and props ever go to schools and children's theater programs?
Oh, all the time. Yeah. So the longest life cycle for used sets is if they go into a theater, because they use them for seasons and cycles, you know, for years to come. Instead of a senior thesis filmmaker who makes one set and then maybe throws it away, it's theaters we always strive to donate to theaters because they'll keep something active and in use for many years. And a lot of children's theater programs especially, and children's art programs.
And one question, it would maybe require a very long conversation. So if you can keep it short so we can go in the breakout room sessions. From Julie, what is the vision to or plan to scale this up? And I believe you've done a lot of work on that already.
Yeah, in terms of scaling what we do in other markets. Was that the question?
Or within the industry, maybe Julie, you can open your mic if you want to precise your question.
Yeah, sure. First of all, amazing. Thank you for sharing that. Like, who knew? Yeah, just generally speaking, like here you've got this, what I assume to be one warehouse, and you've obviously built up a really good set of partners and customers and you know, sort of, you've got the flow coming in and going out. How do you take that model and scale that maybe in other industries or with other studios or, you know, geographically?
Yeah, it's a good question. And we actually have 2 warehouses on our property. I didn't show you the other one, but it's full of maker spaces and shops and production designers. So the way that we can scale is to go into another market. Atlanta and Austin are on our list. And to start up a similar model to what we do is when you're just getting started, you find a way to pay for the building. And so for us to keep operating, we, you know, monetized our space and had shop space, maker space, prop storage, everything that the production needs and is actually willing to pay for. And then that feeds into the disposal. So our clients renting space hire us to divert their materials, and they get used materials from us in the first place, and then they hire us to deliver. So we have an on-demand logistics portion of our work as well. So there's a lot of like struggling to stay in business kind of a thing for vendors like ours, but it's if you can feed into what the industry needs and try to be a practical service provider in a few different ways, it's a model that works, at least for us.
Thank you for this answer, Kris. And thank you for all the questions. I love that. We're going to head into the breakout room session, which is a very exciting time for small group discussions where you can get to know each other a little more. And we will have facilitators running the show. So they'll be in each breakout session. And we have one question today for the first breakout session, and the following that we will put in the chat. What did you find the most interesting or exciting, which were discussed today? And I'm sure there will be plenty to chat in there. I think, Alicia, you're on for the breakout sessions.
Yep, so we're ready to start breakout into the breakout sessions. You'll have about 10 minutes. Thanks. Welcome back, everyone.
Welcome back. I think we got cut in our discussions, so we couldn't see the count of the seconds, and we had a lot to discuss still. But I'm going to give the floor to any facilitator or anyone that wants to share what was discussed in the breakout session. Anyone here?
I'll go for my group because we never even got around to discussing who would share. But we were talking about, I thought one really interesting comment that Audrey made was about how so much of it is analog, like the actual physical moving of things rather than, you know, technology. and the role of technology, but and also just the amazing role that media has for just sending that message around being sustainable, like using a reusable cup or an electronic vehicle, and the role that has to play. So it's pretty awesome.
Thank you so much, Alison. It seems, Audrey, you worked kind of like more on like the content production side of things. Do you know can you tell us about what's done in terms of showing on screen what's like the sustainable practices?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, what I was explaining in our breakout was, and there's essentially a range of climate storytelling. So, you know, there's the implicit versus explicit version of storytelling, and if you kind of look at it as a spectrum. And so, you know, the example around reusable coffee cups, that's, you know, more subliminal messaging of characters walking around with something like this rather than, you know, a plastic cup or any kind of single-use cup. And maybe it's not spoken about, but you'll notice it. And, you know, I was comparing it to, you know, the smoking lobby and how people were smoking nonstop in TV and film for a long time, and it actually did have an impact on people's behaviors, to the point where now we sign pretty strict guidelines around not showing that, and you have to explain the rationale and all of that if you ever want to have a scene with smoking nowadays. And so, you know, hopefully we can do the same thing around sustainable behaviors, but then you can also have something much more explicit, you know, whether it's you know, interstellar and the entire Earth is, you know, crumbling because of climate change, and there's a massive drought, and so it's like central to the plot of the movie. Or even, right, the highest grossing film of all time, Avatar, is kind of about you know, sustainability, where you know, interstellar colonizers come and destroy an indigenous planet over a mineral. So there's a lot of different ways that you can communicate sustainability, versus having like something that's just straight up a documentary that, you know, tells you about climate change. So there's a lot of different ways that it can be integrated.
The mineral, by the way.
Yes, unobtainium.
Yes, unobtainium.
Oh boy, that movie.
It was brilliant. I loved how they named it that.
Yeah.
It was very cool.
Thank you. Julie, do you want to go ahead?
Yeah, sure. I'll do the wrap for our group. So it was really clear from our kind of little pod that we were very energized just around the fact that, or about the fact that, what are perceived as maybe laggard industries in going green and are finally institutionalizing some more kind of sustainable practices. And you know, Audrey is a living, breathing example of that. And Kris's partners and clients are living, breathing examples of that. And I think too, I'll just kind of add my point to this, is that, you know, you guys are still being so innovative about it. So like in Audrey's case, when she talked about like the realities of being on the ground out in the field with, you know, giant energy packs, or, you know, needing the power company to drop, you know, an energy source, you know, it's not efficient, which is kind of counterintuitive and counterproductive to what we're actually trying to achieve. So there's still so much innovation that needs to happen. And so as long as these companies, like Kris's customers and Audrey's companies, can articulate for inventors and innovators and investors to where their greatest needs are, then that gives the makers and the creators some direction on where to go and what they should be building for scalability purposes.
definitely going in the right direction. And yeah, we need we need all the forces there. Thank you, Julie. Does anyone want to share?
Yeah, I'll go from our group earlier. And it's really great that we're discussing these. These are great topics that were just highlighted. It kind of goes into what we were discussing right now. And essentially, well, first off, we were just excited to hear from these two speakers about the, daily ins and outs of what it's like, and especially seeing a little inside of a tour of the EcoSet. We thought that was great. One thing we were discussing, a question I proposed, and I think this was mentioned already, about films like Interstellar and Avatar, which have for more or less a theme revolving around an environmental sustainability-minded issue. A question I was curious about was, do we see more of these type of narratives that are more central, like on the horizon, where more of these mainstream blockbuster films are focusing more and more on environmental issues, ecological, sustainability-minded, to help, showcase, solutions to a global audience, and specifically to like the younger generations today that are already very familiar with what is going on with the climate crisis?
Yeah, I definitely think so. Because I think content often reflects the zeitgeist. And so writers and creators are often, they're concerned about climate change. And so they end up writing about it. And you see it in a lot of, really varied sources. I mean, I'm just thinking like in one of the last seasons of Big Little Lies on HBO, Reese Witherspoon's daughter in the show has a panic attack over climate anxiety. And so I think there's a lot of interesting ways that it's finding its way into content, but there's also some great organizations like the NRDC, which probably most of us know, Natural Resource Defense Council. They have a kind of campaign, or I'm not sure how you describe it, but it's called Rewrite the Future. And essentially they help a lot of studios and content producers review scripts and provide feedback on how sustainability can be, or climate narratives can be integrated. So there's a lot of things like that popping up, where I think it's definitely going to be, at least one movie or one show a year, probably more, from each major network will have something. And these are actually also recognized under the Environmental Media Association. They do what they call the Ema Awards, and they recognize films just like the same categories you'd see at like the Oscars and the Emmys, and they recognize climate storytelling. So if you're curious to see like every year what's out there, yeah, you can go to greenforema.org.
Thank you, Audrey, and thank you, Dimitri. Maybe from our group, we had one question for Kris. Do you face any trade-offs in terms of choosing materials that can or can't that you can or can't take on your end? Is there anything that is really like not cost efficient, or that you really can take care of with EcoSet?
That's a good question. We just finished a pilot with a luxury brand that wanted us to manage their display, their fashion windows that they change out seasonally in many cities. And we found that they're using a building material that just has such a low viability for reuse and a high cost for diversion. And that's MDF, medium density fiberboard. A lot of furniture is made with it as well, and it'll fall apart if you spill your coffee on it. It starts to deteriorate. It's not a real hardwood. And so unfortunately, even though it may be sustainable to create like a compressed kind of a board like that out of lumber waste, it's not sustainable for reuse, and it costs us more money and to manage, and it's heavy and less desirable. So we're having to decline some of that. But I mean, everything from fake snow, linoleum, carpet, we can take all of it and find at least one more outlet for it.
Thanks. And so it shows also how like diverse your company is, working with not only film production and entertainment, but also luxury brands. And we had a question also about weddings organization and any other like events. So a lot to do in the space, but we'll go in the next round of breakout sessions so we can dive a little more in those topics. And we have one question for you for this second round. How will you use this conversation today to push for more sustainability within your organization and role? So I'll put it in the chat. And Alisa, welcome back. Yeah, that was a great fun breakout session. Does anyone want to go on and share with everyone? Sarah, I see you're on mute.
Oh, we were just talking about some of the different verticals that you would get to see here in WCS. Sarah Gallagher was, saying how it was such a different perspective in what she does in her day job, which is in transportation, and then learning about, production. And I was just saying how that's one of the great things about WCS, that you get to learn about different verticals all the time. But one of my major things that I'm excited about is learning about Kris's business as a potential source for us and some of our clients at Smart Waste. So that to me is super exciting. I would say that's definitely something that I'm going to take away right away and send her an email after this meeting.
Thanks, Kris.
Did I mention our website, ecoset.la? If anyone hasn't visited that, you get a whole bunch of info about the different service segments we have. And
I think it was shared, but I can put it again. It was shared by Alisa earlier. Here, it's in the chat.
Thank you.
Thanks, Kris.
If I can jump in, Kris said something really cool in our first group, which I felt like fed directly into my second group, which is my favorite with these events. But he was talking about how, like in LA, some people in their own homes might not be composting or recycling, like that might not be offered by the city. And that is such a gateway, like to have it in your own personal practices to be sustainable, such a gateway to like bringing that to your own work. And if that's like not a precedent, then it's so much harder. And so I think what's so cool about hearing about a different vertical, like Sarah was just talking about, is that you get to see someone taking their own sustainability practices into their industry. And then you can think about your own sustainability practices and how you bring those to your industry. So it doesn't really matter that, like, I personally am not in entertainment, but I do kind of have that link, and I've taken that step in my own personal work. And so then I can take the next step to what it might look like in my industry. So I think that has been really exciting and food for thought. So thank you to both these speakers.
I wasn't in one of the breakout rooms, but I did look through the awards list, which apparently the recent EMA Awards were last Friday. And we do sustainable transportation shuttle services. So I already sent that link over to our advertising team as like, hey, these are some studios that have shown interest in environmental messaging, and maybe they'd want to partner with us on a program like in Culver City or Santa Monica or anywhere else in the country to get, to further this sustainable messaging. So I thought that was cool. I'll put the awards link in the chat. That's what I was doing while you guys were.
And feel free to reach out to me after this and we can talk more about that. But through that Clean Energy Committee of the Sustainable Production Alliance, where every major studio, you can see on greenproductionguide.com, every major studio is represented there. And we do talk about clean energy solutions and write letters of support for different suppliers or industries that are looking to kind of invest in the film industry's decarbonization. So let me know.
That's awesome. Yeah, I'll reach out. I also put the question in the chat. Maybe if you've seen if any sustainable transportation or logistics strategies. I noticed that in the piece that it had a whole section on transportation.
Yeah,
one
dang,
of which
you
was
are
shuttle
fast.
services.
Yeah.
But I
No,
was wondering if you saw that sort of picked up by productions yet, or if they're focusing more on that circular waste kind of aspect.
no, it is. It is being used by productions. So we've always shuttled people because parking is a nightmare in LA. It's a little tougher during COVID, but we've always shuttled people from locations in passenger vans. And so we have piloted electric versions of the 12-person passenger van and 16-person passenger vans that we usually use. The only issue we had during the pilot was charging. So I'm trying to install fast chargers on our lot to make sure that that's actually the kind of use case that people would have is they'll come back to the lot, they're idling, waiting to pick up people, and they could plug in. But we've also used electric vehicles for long-term rentals that a lot of shows use. So like a lot of the people that like Kris would work with, like wardrobe and set deck and props people, like they have larger vehicles that they need to move stuff around. And so they could come to EcoSet and pick props up, and then they're driving all around town to pick stuff up. So having them rent EVs or hybrids is definitely common. The one thing that's been tough is the truck space. So a lot of our sets are moved around with trucks. And so that's trucks that are dragging trailers for cast and crew. If you're a big enough actor, you get your own trailer. So imagine like on a movie with a lot of really big actors, every single one gets a truck that's driving their trailer around town. So electrifying those is I think the next step for us, but also scaling up electrification, because a lot of it I would say has been pilot cases, but definitely I think accessible, because even though we drive all around town, we're not driving that many miles and we idle a lot. So really, I think an interesting solution is definitely there.
If you need any help with that, I'd be happy to connect you. One of my biggest clients is Volvo Trucks, and they were the first to Class 8 battery electric truck. And I've helped them with a lot of their early demonstration projects. And so,
oh, cool.
Yeah, could connect you and let you guys know about the local like dealership support network that they've built, and some charging infrastructure partners.
Yeah.
So.
I love those connections. Thank you, Sarah, for jumping in. Maybe we can welcome one last comment, Julie, from your group.
So Sarah Fuentes kindly did a little debrief of what our group did, but as I'm listening to you guys, gals, thinking about how I would personally answer that question. So I do a lot of marketing strategy consultation, product development consultation, like management team strategy session facilitation. And part of that always involves like, what's the vision for your company? What's the mission? And there's the values. And when we get to the values, like they just freeze. And I think that when we talk about the B2B part of the world, so it like the commercial, right? Like businesses, the more that we can influence the value of climate tech, green tech, sustainability, renewability, call it what you will, then we can help them work that into their strategy and institutionalize it. And some employees are going to go for it and some aren't, and that's just the way it's going to be. But if it's there, then at least a good portion of people will buy in and change their behaviors. And that's a great start. So anyway, that's kind of the direction I'm going in.
Thank you for sharing your thoughts, Tui. And Nathalie, you wanted to add something?
Yeah, I just wanted to add one thing that I took away because we were talking about, again, like the subliminal messaging versus the more like overt messaging of environmentalism in TV shows and movies. And it just reminded me that, you know, in our lives, you know, we're showing people every day kind of like our values through like the things we use. So it just reminded me again, like just the importance of small actions and like remembering to bring my bags and remembering to have my coffee cup, and just it was a nice reminder. So I appreciated that.
And I think always a great conversation starter about sustainability. People will make remarks whenever I pull out all my reusables, and then I'll be like, well, here's why. And then I think it's a great icebreaker.
Yes, I have the Bagoo bags that are like the parachute material. Get a lot of conversations around those.
Thank you. Before I give the mic back to Caroline, I'd like to thank the speaker, and maybe Kris and Audrey, if you have one last word. The floor is yours again, and then we'll wrap it up.
Thank you for the invitation. This is a really encouraging space, a real pleasure to be invited in for the evening. So I appreciate everybody's comments and interest in what EcoSet's doing. Thanks for the invitation.
Yeah, likewise. It's been great to have like a more conversational virtual meeting, because I think a lot of us end up in virtual presentations and you're just kind of like listening, but you never get to talk. So I absolutely love this format and hope to connect with a lot of you after this.
Thanks. Caroline?
All right, I'm just gonna share my screen one more time here to close out the evening. Thank you, Audrey. Thank you, Kris. Thank you, Melise. That was awesome. Thank you to our volunteers. I just wanted to plug really quickly here in case you had a good time. There's more on the pipeline. In fact, one next week. And then our big summit, which we're really excited for. I think there's going to be a lot of this format of workshopping and thinking big about like how we all can reimagine the future. And so if you like to get your hands dirty, that summit will be far more on that side than listening to a bunch of people talking. And then demystifying mentorship panel. And we really do value all of your opinions about this event, about this community, about what it's like to be a part of it, whether they be good or bad, we want to hear. So please take a moment and give us some feedback. You can go to this QR code and there's a quick survey there for you. Thank you again for our volunteers. And you can find us in the virtual world in many different facets, whatever suits your fancy, but we're ending it slightly early, give you 5 minutes back, and thank you all for coming.